Liz, welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm good. I was saying earlier that you were one of the first people I ever talked to when I was planning my first batch of guests a year ago. And we never ever got to recording, but now we are recording 1 year later. And we're probably going to be talking about completely different stuff than we planned to last year.
Totally different to what I said last year. Yeah, which is great.
We chatted, I think, yeah, it would have been like September of last year. And I think both of our lives have completely turned around
I
and
think it
changed.
was before then because
Yeah, probably.
I think during the pandemic I spoke to you, and I think that I was staying with my parents with family during the pandemic at one point of the lockdown.
You were,
And
because
I
you were in a
think so.
completely different place. But yeah, I'm just glad to have you talking
Yeah,
to me now. I know, well, you said that over the past 5 years, your life has changed drastically. So, I mean, paint the picture. Who was Liz 5 years ago?
yeah. Well, I studied fashion design for 4 years at university. Then I went and worked for a fashion designer, quite high end, for 10 years in London. At the beginning of my career, we ended up appearing on a national TV show, and the website crashed, and I found myself becoming from fashion designer to website designer, and then doing all of the email marketing and all of this sort of stuff that I wasn't meant to do. And I think everybody does that in their careers. Your career path sort of verges in a different direction. And I wasn't happy about that direction for like 5 years. And then it became actually, I'd rather design the websites and do the email marketing than the fashion clothes. And then towards the end of my time there, I met a woman at one of the sample sales and we became friends. And she told me, I feel like you're a really positive person, but you seem a little bit low right now. You should go read this book. And this woman was in finance, and all of my friends at the time were very creative PR people and design. So I think if she'd have told me, any of them had told me to read this book, I would have like laughed. I was very cynical because it was like a personal development book, and it was called "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero.
So good.
And yeah, and that book just totally floored me, changed my life. And it made me realize, I don't have to be a fashion designer, web designer, or, like in the fashion world anymore. I can do whatever I wanted to do. So I started a business selling phone cases. And then I was doing that. And what I found I really loved about that was actually creating the brand around the phone cases. So then I started thinking, okay, well, this isn't what I want to do. I started looking for a coach. And when I was Googling Notting Hill life coaches, in London, I didn't connect emotionally with any of them. And that's when I had this aha moment of, oh, I can take these people's photographs because that's what I did in my job. I can design their websites. I can help them with the content and I can help them with the personal branding because working at this fashion company, I was there for the evolution of the CEO, who was the face of the brand, who was very much behind the scenes. When social media came about, she became very front of house. And it was all about personal branding at that point. So you could see that her personality was very much reflected in the clothing and the sort of signature of the brand. So I just really got in on what personal branding meant, like community and stuff within a business. So yeah, that's sort of what I do now is just that. And it's just such a transition from, if you'd have told me what I'm doing now 5 years ago, it just wouldn't be the same. So I've had this business for nearly 4 years, but it's just been a wild ride and very, very exciting.
Well, I come from the marketing world and I recently had branding photography done and I recently
Ah,
created a website. And I would have loved if I could just hire one person and do it all
yeah,
for me. So
yes,
instead, what I did was I basically bought a Squarespace template and a course that basically taught me how to put it all together.
hmm,
Good. Then I did it all myself. Then I worked with someone else to do the branding photography. And
yeah,
I'm basically kind of hodgepodging my way to a branding presence myself. But it's like
yeah.
I would have much rather have, especially from the photographer side, right into the end
Mm.
product. You're holding on to a pot of gold right now.
Yeah. Thank you.
No,
And
seriously.
it's funny you're saying that about the templates because I'm creating some templates myself for service-based businesses
Like
like
it.
yourself, especially coaches and people in marketing or yoga teachers. So I'm going to create templates specifically for them in my design handwriting. And I want to have like a little course in there that teaches you how to do the branding and like how to find your brand and where you can find nice images for your website And even maybe like have a call with me or something to help you with the
Exactly.
process. Because when you've got a template and you're doing it on your own, it can be quite, you're floundering, you don't know what you're doing. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
basically, this course plus template I bought, yeah, she does a little bit on branding and stuff. I come from a marketing background, so I didn't need
Yeah.
so much on that. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, because there's people like me that they don't want to spend as much in an investment for someone else to do, because they feel like they're smart enough to figure it out on their own. And that's how I
Yes.
felt. I'm like, I don't mind spending the time to put all this together, because then I'll know exactly how to edit it all the time. So I
That's why
think
I
what
want
you're
to create
creating,
this.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
market out there for it. Trust me.
Yeah, that's cool actually. Like that, I'm thinking, I really want to have this in my business for the people that can't afford like my
Like a
higher,
5, 6 grand.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, which is what mine is. So this will be like a £500 thing, maybe like
exactly.
$700, and then because I think there are people. It's great talking to you now that can do this. So yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. And will it be built on Squarespace?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Like, it's such a
Yeah.
great passive income opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
I've had nothing but a good experience, because I bought mine earlier in the year, like almost a year ago,
Yeah.
and I did it for the podcast, and then I recently basically purchased from her again of another template for the real estate one. But it's like I already know how to do it, so it's like I don't have to go through the
Yeah.
course as much. And
Yeah.
yeah, for the price it was, it's like it's very a do it yourself kind of thing. But I think that the price is worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you are in the right business. Let me say that.
I know. I am very thankful. I speak to a lot of my friends and they're just like going through the motions and stuff. And I'm like, I love my job so much. And I felt like that when I did fashion as well. But I think all of us, we get to a stage, don't we, where, well, not all of us, but, I think a lot of us, you reach a sort of the end of that. Like, I want to do something different or even sort of pivot slightly. So, like, well, you've definitely gone from marketing to what you're doing now.
Yeah,
But also
exactly.
with what you're doing, the marketing will help with that as well.
Exactly. But well, let me ask you this. Why do you think people are so afraid to pivot or make a change? Because I agree, there's so many people that are working jobs and they're just like, this is not for me. I'm not happy. And they don't seem very interested to do anything about it. Do you
I
think it's
think
a confidence thing?
I think it's a bravery sort of thing. I
Fair.
really, that book that I read, it was talking about taking these big leaps and you could see the transformations and, she gave lots of stories about people doing it. And I think if you hadn't have read something like that and you didn't get into the personal development thing, you've got a lot of people around you saying, oh, you shouldn't do that. But you've got to say, good job or why are you doing that? People will kill for your job. And if it's not right for you, then that's not what you should be doing. And I don't know, I went to a workshop once and at the beginning of like a couple of years ago, she made us do a meditation and we had a card with all the skills on. And it was like, you pick from the wheel. And I think I picked like leadership, humor, friendship or kindness, and passion, and these sort of values. And then she said, okay, so these are the ones that you use all the time. What's one that you don't use all the time? And I put on there bravery because whenever I've been brave, incredible things have happened and I've been so scared to do it, like leave my job of 9 to 5. But like, no, I hadn't saved up. I just sort of like was like, okay, it's gonna have to work. And then like moving from London to like the Cotswolds, that was like a massive leap for me. And it's just like following your heart and doing these big leaps. So I put bravery, even though I don't use it very often. So she made us do a meditation and she said, okay, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine that you can never use that skill ever again. And I just started crying. It was really emotional. Lots of my friends that did it with me felt the same way because it's something that you don't use very often, but you feel quite passionately about. And for me,
You know
bravery,
you have it in you, but you're still
yeah,
not using it enough.
yeah. So
Mm.
imagine that. So I just want to say to any of the listeners that are thinking, I really want to do this thing, but I just don't think I can. Imagine if that was taken away from you and you couldn't do it. That for me felt so constricting and just feeling like, oh my gosh, no, I've got to do it. I've got to do this stuff. I think it was about two
Yes.
months after that I moved because
Mm.
I was like, I need more from my life. I need to be in nature.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I read what you said to me. You are now living where Cameron Diaz stayed in England in The Holiday. And that's one
Yeah.
of my favorite Christmas movies ever. When I
Yeah.
read that, I literally knew exactly where you're living.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty much like that where I live. I live.
Did you feel like Cameron Diaz did in the
Well, I mean, where's Jude? Yeah, it definitely does feel like that. You know, going from a city, I was in London for 13 years, and I'd been raised in a town in the northwest of England, but it was very much like a working town.
Mhm.
So, you know, there was supermarkets everywhere and street lights. And one of the things about moving to the countryside, which I thought I lived fairly near the countryside where I grew up, but it's just so rural here. You know, like for me to go to a supermarket, it's like 15 minutes away, which normally it's like less than 5 when you're in a
Mhm.
car. So it's like 15-minute drive. There's no takeaways near here. But one of the things I took up running, which I can talk about in a little while, but I would go for a run and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I've got to be back before the sun sets
Yeah.
because
There's
it's going to be pitch black. There's like
literally
no
pitch
light
black.
anywhere now. Yeah. It's been interesting. And I didn't want to live in a village either. So I literally live, there's like 3 houses on the left of me and a farm on my right. And that's it for like a mile in all directions. And it's wonderful.
What's changed about maybe your sanity or mental health moving from London to something really rural?
Yeah. I think I, it's very funny because, you know, in the past like couple month or two, I've actually felt a little bit lonely, which I've been here now for a year and a half. So it's the first time I've felt like that. I think that's because, you know, you can have a tendency to be a bit hermit-like when there's nobody around. But I'm making a point to go to London and see my friends. But the main difference was just being out in nature. I just found that walking out of my front door and being able to go on a walk for like an hour in the countryside and the views near where I live are just so stunning. And that was like what was feeding my soul, was just giving me so much happiness. It was lovely. You've got the parks and stuff in London, but
It's not the same.
it's just not the same.
No, hey, I feel like we're very similar people. I live in Toronto and I I'm from a small town like East Coast of Canada and Toronto is great, but it does not feed my soul at all.
Yeah.
Going to
I was
Greece certainly did.
Yes, I bet it did. I've just come back from Spain, and I think that when you're in those towns, it's so lovely, but you don't quite realize. Well, it's quite unusual that you actually know that already because I didn't. I was in the city for like 12 and a half years, and I was just like, I'm going to be here forever. And it was only like the last 6 months that I was just like, "Huh, maybe this isn't actually where maybe I want to go somewhere else." So, and I tell you, it's quite funny. I used to read, this is so cheesy, but I used to read romance novels when I was younger. I mean, I still do. And the author of this one that I'd always read, she always based her novels in Bath, which is Jane Austen's sort of land,
Yes.
um, and where lots of period dramas are filmed. Then you've got Cornwall, which is in like the sort of south of England, and that's all like beachy. And then she filmed them in the Cotswolds. She'd do it in the Cotswolds. And I always remember thinking, one day I'm going to live there because it sounded so idyllic. And I'd never been. So I was staying with my parents during the pandemic. And then I was like, I need to leave. So I went on Airbnb and I booked somewhere for 2 months and I just moved with all of my stuff. And then I just sort of hunted and I had a vision board. I've actually got it up there and it's got an image of the view that I wanted outside of my window. And I've got that exact view outside of my window and the sunsets. And it's,
No way.
yeah, yeah,
People think like vision boards and manifesting and just being intuitive is also like witchy sometimes, but it's like it's
yeah.
so real.
I actually have them here. Shall I show you the images? So funny because I gave a talk about this the other day.
Mhm.
Okay, so this here,
And that's your
that's my,
legit view.
that's my vision board and that's my view on there. Okay.
Oh my God.
So that's that. And then I have as
The
well.
universe conspired for you.
And I also had that I wanted to run a half marathon. I did a little vision of me and then I ran it. And then here I wanted to elevate some of the clients that I was working with. All my clients, past and future, have been amazing and present. But I
You
wanted
want
to
to
work.
attract a different clientele.
Yeah, so I was just like, I want to work with women that have done TED Talks. So, and you can have a TED Talk for like a couple of hundred views or something. So I spent a long time, and I think when you do a vision board, you've got to search for an image that really makes you feel something because it's all
Mm-hmm.
in the emotion. So like this was the image that I found of the woman that this kind of woman that I wanted to work with. 6 months later, this woman on the website sent me a message saying, could I do her website? So they're actually two different women,
But still.
but it looks exactly the
And she
same.
direct messaged you.
Yeah. And her talk had 2.5 million views on TED
You are
Talk. So
pumping me up to get back into
mhm,
manifesting and vision boarding because there's so many things I want. And I'm not like telling the universe that I want it. I'm just kind of like, kind of thinking about it, you know?
yeah, yeah. No, I have mine. Mine's just over there. It's got a villa in the south of France
Ooh,
and a dog and lots of exciting things.
interesting. Yeah, like I said, I think you and I are pretty similar because same with you. I quit a job without no savings. I've moved kind
Yes.
of on a whim just because I wanted to. Yeah, I've done a lot of things like that. And people always ask, like, kind of, quite frankly, where do you get the balls to do that? But you made an interesting point earlier. You think confidence is very different than self esteem.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Okay. So
And the
for
reason
me,
I ask is I think I'm a very confident person, but I have a lot of insecurities.
yes. Okay. So I remember when I was in London, and I think this was nearing the time where I was ready to leave, not realizing it. I went to the doctor. I said, I'm feeling quite low, feeling a little bit down, and I've never felt like this before. So I had some counseling sessions, and I remember my counselor, and I think it's really good to speak about going for therapy and being more open about that sort of thing. I think there's nothing wrong with that. Anybody wants to do it. And my counselor, when we started talking, she was the one that said to me, well, you seem quite confident, but actually you've got low self-esteem that's what we sort of figured out, which I never even knew about that. But it's like, I can be confident. I'm an introvert, extrovert, I think. I need my own space and time to just sort of recharge my energy. But I'm also quite extroverted and quite chatty. And I think people assume that when you're chatty and you feel like confident in things, like I'm confident that I'll do a good job for my client. And I'm, confident I can walk into a room and chat to anybody if I'm in the right energy. But self-esteem is more about like, if you feel good enough, and self-esteem can be in lots of different ways. It can be related to your work. So you could go into a party and feel really confident and going out dating and you feel really confident with that. But actually at work, you sort of feel confident, but you don't feel that you're worthy enough. And for me, it was in relationships. So my self-esteem was very much about meeting somebody or not feeling like good enough or pretty enough, or that my friends were, more attractive than I was. And like, why would anybody look at me? All of my friends pretty much in London were like models. And I always just had this very negative self-talk. And I think one of the moments for me was because I am a confident person. I was like, this is really, I want to work on this. And I remember I was in London. It was about a year or 6 months before I left. And I remember looking in a mirror, when you catch yourself and you're not pulling like a smiley face. It's kind of like, I don't know, lots of people might call it resting bitch face or
Yes.
something. And I just had that face and I just looked in the mirror and I just said, you're disgusting. You're a monster. And I just remember looking at myself with such hatred and crying. And then I was just like, had this out of body experience, like, whoa, like you cannot speak to yourself like that. That is awful. And I just like had such a moment. I'll always remember that and just was like, okay, I'd done enough work on self-esteem and my appearance and things. And I was just like, that's not true. I was like, okay, I'm not having that. So I went and had a bath. I made my hair, blow dried my hair so it looked really nice. And then I went for a walk to the local park and the sun was setting. And I just was just like, just breathing deeply. And I just really turned around that state. So I think if anybody is feeling with their self-esteem, I'm not good enough, I'm not good enough. And you have a moment where you're like, I'm absolutely, I am so unworthy of this role in my job or my career. I think you need to like catch yourself and think, is that true? You know, look at what I've achieved or look at like the actual points because, that's something we're telling ourselves and it's not fact. I believe that everybody is and we should all be kinder to ourselves. But
Agreed. Well, I
yeah,
always heard people say that you should never say anything to yourself that you wouldn't say to your best friend.
yeah. Like speak to yourself like you would your best friend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You would never say, "Oh my God, your hair is awful. Oh, you've gained 10 pounds." You would
Yeah.
never say that to a
No.
close friend.
No. And I think another thing recently that I've noticed is when we give compliments to people, everybody always is like, "Oh, it was just $5," or, like, "Oh,
I
no,
just
why
did it
is that?"
earlier when
With
we
the
started the
light.
conversation. You were
Yeah,
like,
when I
you
said
look great." I was like, "Oh, it's just the sunlight.
yeah,
I'm just as
and
bad for it."
but the thing is, I think that's something that I really take on board now, where I just say thank you.
I want to switch gears a little bit. One of the things that you said you were struggling with currently when I asked is that you spend so much time working in your business and not on your
Yeah.
business. And I'm sure that's a phrase that a lot of us have heard before, but what does that mean to you?
Ugh, well, that's something that I've really struggled with since becoming an entrepreneur and having my own
Mhm.
business. I don't think anybody quite realizes how much you have to do. I came from a small company where I was doing a lot of things, but I was doing a lot of things there in my field of creativity. But then it needs to be like the marketing and the finance and everything. And I think you do the bare minimum of like the finance stuff that you need to sort of do. But then it's really, you get a client, especially with me with the service based, you've got an hour or two sessions. For me, it's big projects, a website design or a photo shoot. So as soon as I've got that client, then I'm working on that. And it's like, you're also wondering, well, how am I going to get some more clients in? So
Amen, Liz. The
yeah,
things I think about every day of my life.
yeah, exactly. And I think that I always, I had it very easy at the beginning of my business that I worked with a very well-known, well-respected coach, and she referred a lot of people to me. I got a lot of referrals. So it was great, but it was also sort of bad because I didn't learn anything that I needed to market my business properly. I just thought, oh, that's great. I'm going to have like $15,000 months every month, which is what I pretty much did in the first like month or two. And then it was only like 8 or 9 months later, and it was like, oh, I don't have any clients this month.
Crickets.
Have I got to do something? Is somebody not going to just refer me or just like email me? And I just had no idea. But then somebody would, and then I'd just carry on doing my work, and then somebody else would, and then the crickets happen. And it's only been in the past 6 months that I've been like, okay, I think you need to get serious about actually being consistent. And that's the one word that everybody throws around. So yeah, I've just been really religious now about being consistent and planning in days so tomorrow and this week, my content creation days that I'm
Mm,
going to be batching my blogs, my social media, my newsletters for the next 2 months, like this week. So that's what I'm going to do. And I just really struggle with that sort of balance. And I think that we, as business owners, need to actually pencil in time in our diary to create the marketing that we need or whatever the big picture is. If you've got big ideas for your business and they're just dreams and you're not doing it, you're not being brave and taking that leap, or you don't think it's going to happen, you need to schedule in a day just for like brainstorming what it is that you want to do. And one of my things has been that I wanted to, appear on more podcasts and get the word out of what I do more and have more conversations with people as well and building up a really nice network of people in a similar position. It doesn't even need to be, I know we're talking a lot about work stuff and we've talked about some personal stuff, but I think it's just nice to listen to podcasts where, it is a bit more on the personal side as well. So that's what I'm enjoying about your podcast.
I know, but I feel like work is our life sometimes. So, and
Yeah.
our emotions and our problems and our stresses often come from what makes us money.
Mm.
So that's why
When,
I
yeah,
naturally talk about work very quickly because it's where I spend 99% of my energy.
yeah, I know it's true. And the sad thing is, when your business is doing really well, you're really happy. And when it's not, you can be really low. And I think that that's one thing when I went from being a 9 to 5er where I knew exactly how much money was coming in each month. And that was great. Whereas, I can have like a 12,000. I think, back in February, I had a day where I made like $12,000 in a day.
And
And
let the
then,
audience know that you're in pounds.
yeah. So, well,
That's
yeah. Yeah.
$24,000 Canadian.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
lot
So
of friggin' money.
there's a lot of money in a day, but then you can have nothing for like a couple of months
Exactly.
especially because when you're working in your business, you've got that in and you're not looking to get more business in. So that's definitely some things that I'm working on, and especially with the website templates and more passive
Passive
income.
income. Yeah.
Um,
I'm
yeah.
struggling with the exact same thing. I'm about to finish up my first year of real estate, and it was nuts. Like, with the pandemic happening in Toronto, it basically made the rental market insane because there was so much inventory. Prices dropped because there was no Airbnbs allowed. So it was just so much more on the market. So I was nonstop go, 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 go. I didn't have time to think about, oh, let's set up a website. Oh, I don't need marketing. I'm having tons and tons and tons of business. I'm like, I'm new in real estate. This seems pretty easy. However, this past September, that last month was the slowest month of my career. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, I can have these
Yeah.
kinds of months. And that
Yeah.
was the first time in basically a year that I was like, ooh, okay, I gotta, where's more business coming from? I
Yeah.
had to set up the website. I gotta think about marketing a little bit more. And thankfully, I come from that background. So it's not like I have to teach myself anything. I just gotta
Yes.
take the time to work on the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
But like you said, unless it's not scheduled in your calendar and you're actually spending time on it, it's never going to get done.
No. No.
Never.
No.
But I'm still figuring it out. So, but
I
yeah, I
know.
had some
Well, wait.
crazy big months and then all of a sudden you have like very low months.
Yeah. I know. And I hope, so I'm talking about money quite openly here. And
I do
because
too.
I know that's a thing that, well, especially in the UK, people are much more private and they don't
Yes.
talk about it as much. Whereas I think again, it's like counseling and money and mental health and all of that. I think that these things should be a lot less taboo. And I think it's good that we're talking about that. And I
Well,
think it's good that you're talking about like your quiet months. I had a really quiet August and September, and this month's great. But also I know that because I've had the marketing that I've been putting into place, I know that these things, and anybody that's listening that's starting off and will start more with their marketing, it's not something that's just going to get you business like that. It is something that it's a slow build. And if you're consistent, then it will work.
well, I'll tell you this, and I need to do a full episode on this stuff, but it was only in the past month. And mind you, one of the biggest things about real estate is prospecting. I've been coming on a year of real estate. It only was last month I started prospecting. How
Right.
insane is
Yeah.
that? And I was
But
like,
no,
oh shit, I have to go back to the absolute basics of real estate. And then prospecting, it's like now I literally schedule in an hour, like Tuesday to Friday, every single day of the week to be like, I have to prospect. And I'm not going to get this crazy big client this week, but like over time, that pipeline builds.
mhm,
So that's
yes,
working on the business a little bit more.
yes, yeah, exactly. And you feel much more aligned. And I think that you feel like I've done something, even if it's not much. I know that this is going to reap the rewards in like a year, even. And I have this amazing story actually, I'm going to share with
Yes,
you.
please, please.
So I had a lady get in touch with me, and she filled out a form on my website. A lot of the time I just get an email direct or something like that. She filled out a form on my website and she said, I think I want to work with you. Let's have a Zoom chat. So we did. And I said to her, I said, how have you found me? And she said, it's really funny, actually. She said, I said I started a phone case business. Did I tell you that? Did I say what it was? It was a phone
Yeah,
case
yeah. It
business.
was basically
Yeah.
like quotes on cases.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I was
Which is
applying,
genius. Back then, like when you were doing that, like that was
yeah.
such a great business.
So when I was at my fashion company, I started looking through the phone cases. They were all cheesy. So I was like, okay, quotes are a bit cheesy anyway, but I'm going to make them less cheesy. So I did that, built the brand. And then I sold them on like Etsy, my website. And this lady that was on the phone to me, she'd bought 2 of my phone cases, the exact same 2 out of the collection of 20 that I'd had. And she said I was having a really tough time at work and we were going traveling for a little bit, like a sabbatical, and I was going back. And I knew that I wanted to have something on my phone that I looked at every day to try and anchor me and make me feel better. And which is exactly why I was, not very happy towards the end of my job, wanting more but not knowing what it was. And I had these phone cases for the exact same reason. I wanted them for other people to have them. So that's why she had it. And then she actually quit her job and trained to be an executive coach. And she was like the head of ITV, which is a really prominent channel in the UK, working with clients like TikTok, like Barclays, Starling Bank, like really, Procter and Gamble, like L'Oreal, like really big companies. And yeah, and she said, I followed you on your Instagram account for 4.5 years. And I always knew that when I wanted to work with somebody and do my branding, it was going to be you. And I just burst into tears because
Of
it
course.
was just everything that I had built and been doing for the past 5 years was to help women like realize their dreams like I had. And it was just felt like the most full circle, happiest moment. And that happened, I think that was last year. And we're
Wow.
really good friends now. And that's the power of like just keeping on going and just feeling like, you might think that I want something now, but somebody watching you and paying attention that you don't even realize. You think it's just your friends, but somebody is watching you.
I know. And that thought keeps me going every single day with real estate and also with the podcast. Cause it's
Mhm.
like neither one of them have blown up yet because it's only been a year, but it's like that consistency. Anytime I'm just like, oh, do I really want to like put out another episode this week? Because keep in mind to run a podcast is a good 15 hours a week. That like if I put that into real estate, there's a way bigger ROI in real estate of
Wow.
those hours. So it's like, but every week I'm like, I still do it because I love it. But it's like
Yes.
some days I wake up and I'm like, what's the point? Does anyone even care? And I know there is some people that care that'll literally be listening from day one and then all of a sudden it'll just make sense, you know?
Yeah.
So I agree.
Yeah. What episode are you on then at the moment?
This
It must
week,
be like,
tomorrow is going to be 56.
wow. Oh,
And so
wow.
I've heard before, I heard this on one of my favorite podcasts that I've been listening to since like 2016. It's a husband and wife, and he also runs like a podcast network. And he said so many people quit right before they're about to like make it big. And he said
Yes.
it's usually around episode 100. He's like, so many people get to like episode 100, don't see success, and then stop. And it's like literally 5, 10 more episodes would have done it for them. I have my eye on that 100th episode to like, let's just get there.
And when you get there, to keep on going,
Exactly.
to keep on going. And even if like that becomes like 2 a month rather than 1 a week or something, because there are some that I follow at the moment and I follow them and they're not like, and I've noticed that they've not
You wonder
posted
where they
about
go.
they're 3 months. I'm like, no,
Come
where's
back.
again? I really like them. And I listen to a lot of the episodes. Yeah.
So in saying that, I've tried to not that I do this all the time, but I've tried to make it an effort of like someone that I'm kind of watching from afar. Maybe it's an influencer, maybe it's another podcast, or maybe it's another real estate agent or someone in just their like a corporate world. Sometimes I'll message people and be like, "Hey, like keep going. Like someone's watching, you're killing it. Like don't give up." And I did that to a girl recently who she made a post of like a testimonial, and she said, "This is kind of some days I wake up and I wonder like." What's the point of all of this? Does anyone care? And just like these testimonials make me want to keep going. And I DM'd her and I said, girl, like you've been killing it. Like keep it going. Like do not give up. And she's like, trust me, that means so much. Cause you
Oh,
feel like you're speaking to a wall sometimes.
yeah. Oh, that's so nice. And that's so nice of you to send that out because
You have
yeah,
to.
I do that with people and I have old interns from my old fashion job that have emailed me, especially when I had my transition like last year. And they said, I can't tell you how much like following you has meant to me and seeing how brave you've been. I've now left my job and I've got 2 or 3 interns now that have now like left their jobs and just been following me and now are doing freelance stuff and what they love. And, like the last year when we were talking about the self-esteem and self-confidence, I think for me, I'd always been like a little bit chubby, and I'm 5'2", so I always just felt a little bit heavy, like my body felt
And
heavy. And
being that
people,
height, any bit of weight is
yeah,
gonna make you feel even bigger.
yeah, and I think that if you feel good at any size, then that's good. I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel healthy. So I just ate a really clean diet of like protein, a certain amount of protein. It was measured, brown rice and like vegetables, or like protein and just vegetables in the evening, and some porridge in the morning. And so it wasn't like I was restricting, and it felt good and nutritious. And I just ate that, and I started running like every day, every other day. And I lost like 2.5 stone, which I think, yeah,
Crap.
yeah, it's 35 pounds. So I lost that. And then I was just running and fitter and just happier and healthier. It very much like made me, for the first time in my life, I understood how important exercise was for my mental health. So that really helped with my esteem and just being like, I am enough and I'm going to love myself enough to move my body today. So I think that's been very important with the working on my business, and rather than in it, is like making sure that I have that time in the morning to go for a run or to do a meditation or something.
And I feel that. And it's always the little things that people forget that make the biggest impact on our mental health, self-esteem. It doesn't have to be these crazy hour-long workouts every day, like
Um,
quick walk just during a
mhm.
lunch break or a
Yeah.
quick 20-minute just yoga flow, like just move, you know?
Yes.
And I say that as I'm going through because I'm trying to get back into working out and I started this morning. So, Liz, you have very creepy intuition, to be honest with
We
you.
we have, haven't we? We have. Similar with, I think that's why we got on so well at first
I
call.
know.
But intuition is huge for me. Like how I design all
Mhm.
of my clients' work and stuff is about intuition. It's actually
And do
something
you
that I
do you
want.
just get intuitive about the vibe that they're putting out?
Yeah. So I think what happened was the CEO that was like, I was the right hand woman to, like, so my boss, like for 10 years, I worked with her like very closely. So I would know what design she would like the most. And I feel like what I can do is I can meet somebody. And this is just like my zone of genius, I would say, is like get to know you, like just on an hour call, like have a, see the background in your home. Um, and just sort of know your personality and hear you talk about your business and your passion for it. And I would be able to get who you are, the essence of you and the spirit of you online. Because I find that when I started to emotionally connect with people online, it's because I think sometimes, especially women that go for the corporate, or men go from corporate into a website, the reason they don't want to be in corporate is because they've not liked that atmosphere, or they wanted something new. But they feel like their websites have got to be corporate, or they're just a bit jarring and it's not their personality. Or they're trying to be somebody else in their field that's exciting or bubbly. And they think, well, I need to have that, be like that. And I'm like, well, you're not bubbly, but you're really kind and warm and calm and stuff. So like that's what your branding should be like. So that's where like my intuition comes from, and getting to know who somebody is and putting that across. And it's like being like a team member for them, because
Mhm.
when you're paying the sort of price that you are paying me, I think that you want somebody to just take it off your hands and just do it, because you have a lot of website designers where you've got to give them the collateral, like all the images, like everything.
That's the part
Um,
that stresses me out. It's the content
yeah, like,
writing, it's the picking the images, that kind of thing.
yes. Whereas, I help guide you with the copywriting. I've got like a guide for you, and we'll have a call and a strategy about that. But then it's about like helping them, but not even helping them. They go away and I just find the images for them that I know. It's like I am them. And I feel like I'm channeling them if they were a great designer. And like, this is how my brand should look. So it's like I'm creating it like it's my own, but I'm them. It's weird. It's a
Such a great
bit weird.
skill.
Yeah. No, it's really,
Because what
it's,
someone says their brand should be or what they think it should be is probably not who they
yeah.
emulate at all.
No, I recently had a client, and there was two ways we could go about it. She was very like, she loves her designer clothes. So she wears like Balmain, and she's like this, her style could be like very Gucci and Tom Ford, like very slick and black and sexy. Or it could be, quite eclectic. And she has lots of patterns and different colors and things. And when you look at her Instagram, you see that, she's always doing selfies in her home. She lives in the Cotswolds too, and it's all like really eclectic and beautiful home. So if we tried to do the black cool stick look, it would jar with her Instagram, and they need to be the same. So you need, what you think your branding could be, and you could go in two directions. Go with the one that's the most like you, that's your most authentic self, I feel. So like with your branding, you might think, well, there's lots of realtors out there, and this is what my clients would like. And lots of people say, well, what do got to think about your clients. And for me, it's like, well, no, your clients, people that work with you and find you in person, they're attracted to you. So they don't want to work with everybody that's just like everybody else. You need to make the website you, and like they'll sort of come to you because they're attracted to that. So you might not use blues and blacks or something that is quite maybe synonymous with real estate. You might use something that's a bit more neutral, and then like a pop of color or something, maybe like the aubergine top that you're wearing right now, who knows? But I think
Well,
that
once I get this launched, because I have my brand colors picked out,
yeah.
and the part I'm having trouble with now is the content creation. Because I know as a marketer, you have to write it so when they're reading it, they read themselves in it. So I'm just kind of like
Mm,
trying to channel myself in that way. So once I
mm,
have version one, you'll have to let me know if it's what you would have put together to see if
yeah, because
I
I
think
have a vision.
brand is what it should have been.
Yeah, I have a vision already
Do
of what.
you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If I was
Yes.
doing your brand now, I have a vision of what it would be.
Well, I'm gonna have to get you because I've already invested this money, but I'm gonna have to get you for V2,
Yes,
which
yes,
knowing
I would.
me will be very quickly after V1.
Yeah,
I
it
often do that
normally is. It normally is. Yeah.
because V1 is like, let's just get something live. And then it's
Yes.
like, once it's live, it's like, okay, let's kind of tweak, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, but anyways, this podcast is not about me. So I do have a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
One of the questions I did want to ask you is, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, where you were saying, I wanted to attract a different clientele. Have you ever worked with any clients that were just like soul crushing, but you were in a position where you're like, oh, but I kind of need the money. Let's just get through it. But you're like, they are draining the hell out of me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a couple like that. It's funny because like you always hope that that person doesn't listen, but I have had a couple where it's just not worked out. And I just think that it's their expectations, my expectations. They just didn't work. And I have, you know, and I think it's been on my part and their part sometimes, a bit of a both thing where it's amicably ended. And we've just said, I think it's best if like I leave you with what we have now and you go on your, like you can have everything as it is. But I think it's best if you continue maybe with somebody else. I've had that before. And I think it's better than you putting yourself through a lot of misery and being unhappy and being like frustrated or like, like I don't want to do this because they don't want that energy either. So I think that it's when you sort of explain it in a nicer way, I think that that's okay. And then hopefully, and then they'll get somebody that like where the energy is right and you explain a bit more about what you want and, you explain that. But I have done that like at the beginning, maybe where I've worked with, I want to say maybe work with some people that maybe it's not so much about them. It's more about the job. You take some jobs that really aren't what you want to be doing. And I have had some that have been a bit tricky, but not very often. Not very often. I have been
Good.
really fortunate that I've had some pretty great clients really.
Have you had people that wanted to work with you that you've declined?
Yeah, I've had people that work with me and I think that more want just branding or something. I had somebody that wanted to brand cooking school with me, which the thing is, I think if I did the website in the way that I explained it to her, could do it. But when it is just like a brand of like, this is your brand, like with the mood boards, the colors, the vision, the visual ID, and then you go away and you do something with that. That's not how I like to do my branding. For me, it's about, I like to create the branding on your website and then create it in the website. Because sometimes what I see as a brand, when you actually put it into online, it might not work. So I like to change the colors and play around with it. And then they have like a guidelines afterwards. But I'm very much website design and branding. It's not just
Mhm.
branding. If I've had people that want to work with me, I'll just say, I know some people that I think you would be better to work with.
Good. And I
Yeah.
think that's the best way to have it. I've had
Yeah.
clients before where I kind of just want to hand them off to someone else
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
they'd be better served with someone else. And
Yeah.
it's
Because you
hard
could
to
do
say
it.
that sometimes.
Yeah. Because you could do it, but you just know it's going to be it's going to be painful because you're doing something as well. For
Mm.
me, when it comes to that, I'm doing something that's not really what I want to be doing.
Yeah,
And it's not going to be good energy for anybody.
I know. I know. I mean, we all just want like our ideal client persona and just
Yeah.
only those people at all times, but
Yeah.
it'll all come in time, you know? But I
And I
mean, you're
kind
probably
of
there. You've been doing your business for almost 5 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually had a client contact me today, and it's totally different to what I normally do. So
Mm.
she wants me to build like something with products. So like actually an e-commerce website, which is not what I normally do. It's normally service based. But when I built my phone case brand, I just so enjoyed the feeling of building a brand around like a product.
Actual tangible product. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So we're actually speaking to her today, and it's just been, like a passion for her. I know that I could deliver it for her, and it would be a really enjoyable aspect. And I think if it wasn't her, and she maybe had a different personality type or would expect things in a different way, then I probably wouldn't, because I feel like she'll really enjoy the process, and it might not be how an agency process is. It's like, first of all, I want the sitemap and this and this and this, which my client would have no idea about. And I don't really go into the sort of techie, nerdy sort of aspect of building websites. It's all just holistic and a bit intuitive with me, but you get the product, but you might not get the phone calls saying, have you given me this back and I need this, and I just go away and do it. So I feel like because she's the right sort of client, that it will be a really lovely process if I sign that off. I've sent her the proposal today, so we'll see.
That'll be fun. What's the product?
It's cushions and
Oh, cute.
textiles,
Nice.
planted like pots and stuff like that.
Cute.
It's yeah, really nice, and I really like the product. So, and I like the sort of bespoke aspect of some of it. And she's does it from like her place in France, and she
Cute.
wants to be to the Cotswolds, which is where I'm living. So
You're
it's
gonna
a
start
real
your own
like,
little village there soon.
I know I'm gonna
Start picking your neighbors.
yeah.
Okay, last couple of questions before I let you go. So my first question to you is, what's one thing that you don't have either achieved or something that you want in your business that you're wanting to attract but you don't have yet?
The templates.
Ah, yes. I should
So,
have known.
so yeah, so I actually wrote down in my journal yesterday. I went for a walk, watched the sunset opposite where I live. There's a field with a bench. And I was just saying, what do I want for my business? And for me, it was just like this, which I've been getting like the one and more of, but I just want one really nice big website design client every month. But really, I want the templates because I want to help more people, a better price point for them that maybe can't afford the higher ones. And I want to like just see my designs made and how people will take them. So that for me is like my goal. That's like for this time next year, I would hope to be selling like 10 templates minimum a month and
And
having,
that's all your
yeah,
bills paid for and more.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then one lovely design client a month.
And that's
Um, and that would
happiness.
that's like, yeah, for me, some people might dream of like $1 million businesses, and
Mhm.
that's not what I want. I want to do what I do and enjoy who I work with, and and just have a really happy life like that and relaxed. Yeah.
Mhm. I feel
Yeah.
that. I feel that. Yeah. There's so many agents in Toronto that have big dreams of opening brokerages all over the world. And I'm like, no, I want my own brokerage. I'm like, I
Yeah.
just want to be me and just pick the clients that I want to work with,
Yeah.
handful a month. And I'm like, we're good.
I had a coach that said to me, what do you actually want from your life? When you think of these things in your business, it's like, I want a really lovely home in the Cotswolds and and just like a nice life where I can buy lovely products and, and lovely clothes and stuff. I don't want too much, but I want to have like a nice life, and I think it's sometimes, you don't need to keep up with the Joneses. Just what do you want? Yeah.
I feel that. Okay. Last question before I let you go. what is one piece of advice or anything from everything we've talked about confidence, self-esteem, working in your business versus on your business? What's one piece of advice you want to leave the audience with today?
Mine would be to be more brave. I know that whenever I've done something that was scary and I wanted to do it, but I wasn't sure if I should, I just kept on thinking, just be more brave. Nothing bad has ever happened to me where I've been brave. Moving to the Cotswolds, like leaving London of 13 years was so scary. I left all of my friends. It's the best decision I've ever made. I left my job. That was the best decision I ever made. And if I didn't have somebody pushing me to be brave, and I did have somebody in my corner, I probably would still be there. And it was the bravery of having somebody like have faith in me that helped me. So if I could have anything, it would be to say, be brave. And hopefully I can be that person for you to say that, what's the worst that can happen? Nothing. I left London, I could have gone back, but I never even thought of that. I was just like, this is right for me. So yeah, be brave. Do that thing.
Yeah, I love that. And Liz, where can everyone find you? Plug your website, plug the type of clients that you want if anyone's kind of looking for your
Okay.
services, and plug Instagram, everything.
Okay. So my website's elizabethellery.com, and that's Elizabeth with a Z, and it's Ellery. And you can find me there on my website. And then on Instagram, it's Elizabeth_Ellery. And I just really love working with. I work with a lot of women. People say, "Do you work with men?" I have done, and I do. But I prefer working with women because I like designing for women, like in that sort of style that's a bit more feminine, maybe. And I just really like seeing other women that are leaving their jobs and doing something different, and having that friendship and connection as well, which I do always have with my clients. And they're usually service-based clients that I do work with. So you've got real estate, or they've got yoga teachers, Pilates teachers, business coaches, maybe a marketing business or something like that. So they're my sort of clients. And normally I work with a lot of women that are quite spiritually connected, not
Mm,
always, that are into things like vision boards and manifesting and stuff.
hmm.
So quite like having something in common there. So
Right.
yeah.
I feel that. I love it. Liz, I am so glad we finally connected. I'm glad
Yes,
you were
me too.
working on your business and reaching back out to
I
podcasters.
am. I am.
So, and that's we got connected because it's funny
Yes.
because you were always in the back of my mind for the past year. And I was like, I need a chance to like where I can fit her story in that's like not the same thing as I did last week, that kind of thing.
Yes.
And I feel like the moment you messaged me was like perfect
Yes.
timing. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to talk about that.
Yes. Great. Oh, it's been
I
lovely
love it.
speaking with you, and thank you for having me.
I know. Come back anytime, truly.